Hey everybody, today is Wednesday. I usually make my midweek videos on Tuesdays, but yesterday, November 3, was Election Day in the United States, and I was interested to watch the results as they played out, although in the end, it was kind of like I suspected that by midnight it was unclear and the votes were still being counted. And in large part that was because there were so many early ballots cast and they're still being counted. I'm still tracking the news today. It's very interesting to watch it play out. And if I'm being personal and honest, it's a little bit nice for me to be watching it from the relatively insulated context of being here in Canada, away from home. So as I'm watching these results, I'm also occasionally going on social media like Twitter and watching everybody's reactions to the results. And you can imagine what those are like. People full of despair, full of joy, people feeling the whiplash of every update of the election, of the ballots being counted, swinging this way, swinging that way, and everybody's emotional well-being swinging with those updates, and people expressing a lot of worry. And as I watch that, and as I think about that, there's a couple Bible verses, Bible passages that come to my mind that I think relate to any instance where we are feeling anxious about the future, where we are feeling worried, not just something like this election, but I think generally in life. There's a lot of things that we feel anxious about as we look to the uncertainty of the future. I think it was Yogi Berra who said, predictions are difficult, especially when they're about the future, or something to that effect. But the point is the future and the uncertainty of it can make us anxious. And that's what these Bible verses speak to. So the first one is from Psalm 127. And it says this: "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." And here's verse 2, and this especially speaks to the situation of watching the election results, staying up till midnight, or I'm sure a lot of people deep into the night, and then getting up early to get the newest update. It says in verse 2, "In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat. For God grants sleep to those he loves. In vain you rise up early, in vain you stay up late." The people's vote is cast. There's nothing they can do at this point to impact the results, and yet they are on the edge of their seats. Here's another passage that came to mind. This is a very familiar one from the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus says, "So do not worry, saying, 'What shall we eat?' Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after these things. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." So Jesus' counsel there is to not worry about the future, but to focus on the present moment. It reminds me of a movie I was watching not too long ago where one character said to another, and I'm just going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact dialogue, said something like, "Are you worried?" And the other character said, "I never worry. My theory is worry just means that you suffer twice." And I think that pretty much says it, doesn't it? Worrying is putting yourself through unnecessary suffering before you know what's actually going to happen. You suffer more in the worrying than in what could actually be in front of you. This was illustrated for me this week again when my family went down to get our flu shots here at the local clinic. And I have two sons, ages 5 and 6. And once you tell them we're going to get our flu shots, of course their anxiety goes way up. Now they did really well this year, but there was still some fussing and some fear and some anxiety. And then after the flu shot, it's like they can't believe how quick and easy it was. And so we say, as mom and dad, do you see how easy that was? Now let's remember next year when we do this again that we don't have to worry as much. There's more suffering in the worry than there is in the event itself. That's easier said than done. It's very easy for Americans on the edge of their seats to be worried right now about the result. But ultimately, the result is not in any of our hands anymore. The votes have been cast, and now they're being counted. And worry is not going to help. Like I said, it's easier said than done not to worry. That's what Jesus tells his followers to do on the Sermon on the Mount. Do not worry about tomorrow. Easier said than done. But if we look to the Bible, we can remember that we don't need to worry about the future, at least the big picture, because we believe that Christ is King yesterday, today, and forever. We believe that tomorrow is in God's hands, and we believe that God's plan will prevail. The cross of Jesus Christ, the death and resurrection of Christ, is our guarantee that God's plans will prevail. Not that we should have ever doubted God's plans would prevail. For goodness sakes, God is the creator of the universe. There is no power greater. Nothing can overwhelm God's plans. But in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ at the cross, we see the guarantee at work that God's plan for redemption is going to prevail, because we see that Christ died and rose again victorious over sin, over death, over brokenness, over hurt, over injustice. And where we see those things around us in the world today, we know that they are temporary. They are ultimately defeated. So we don't need to worry. We have our hope in the God who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Like you, like so many others, I'm going to keep watching the news, see how things play out today, tomorrow. Hopefully there is a clear result, but ultimately our hope is in Jesus Christ and in his death and resurrection. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you again next time.